Hey guys, welcome to the video. My name is Hami. I also go by the Muscle Jedi. So if you don't know about me, I just want to introduce myself really quick before we get into this entire video where I'm going to break down everything I'm going to do to self-coach myself to get shredded and potentially improve some bring up to create that aiming to attain. So first of all, I'm 22 years old. I've been training for about 3-ish years. The past two have been the most serious. I started out a bit chubby and more on the skinny fat side, and now I have fallen in love with the sport, given up even other sports. Very advanced background in golf competitively, which actually led me into bodybuilding, and now here I am on the road to physique mastery as a natural. So, a few things. I'm very calculative. Everything I do is for a strict reason. I don't believe in studies. I don't want to see any study with any of the points I'm making. My points are based on experience. I have a 3-point model, which I call the Jedi 3-point model. It is my belief of what is a true evidence-based model, which is personal preference, experience, and what the evidence in different sectors has shown to work. You combine these 3 points, and that's how you get your best results. Now, when it comes to this world of bodybuilding, we don't give enough credit to bodybuilders that they're extremely intelligent people, and it's very easy to be, super into the science and say, oh yeah, he's doing this wrong, their form is so bad, this and that. But at the end of the day, bodybuilding is the only sport where amateurs think they have the right to judge professional athletes. So one thing I do want to say is bodybuilding is a much more intuitive sport than people make it seem. And a lot of the choices I'm going to be making today are going to be backed by science, but they're also going to be backed by intuition. So enjoy. I hope I can give you as much value as I can give. This is as transparent as I can be. Everything I do, I believe it. I'm open to being wrong. And yeah, so I was coached by my previous coach, Ahmad Desnabi, also goes by Man's Big on Instagram. We did a growth phase, and I went from about 160 pounds to 212 pounds in about 7 months. So it was a pretty drastic bulk, made a huge difference, and my physique is now in a good place, but a fluffier place. So we're gonna dive into visuals. So the first thing is, this is where the physique is now. Now you can see there's pretty proportional development everywhere. I'm still on the fluffier side, but one thing I do want to dive in is a lot of people, let's say we go on this body part like my quads, you can see that they're way more defined than, let's say, my arms, my pecs, even my adductors. Now, why is that? It's because I have tremendous development on my quads comparing to other body parts. So one thing I do want to say is whenever you have a body part that is a leaner, no matter how, especially even when you're at higher body fat percentages, that is because that is generally your most muscular body part. So that's how you know what your strong body parts are, where even when you're not lean, they appear to be lean. And this is what, and another thing you'll see is my abs are starting to poke through. Now, what's interesting is I actually had very weak abs. So last time I ended my cut was around February of 2024, and I got pretty lean. I had lines in almost every body part, striations in my shoulders, striations in my pecs. I'd say I was around 11%, maybe 12%, but I had no abs. Why? Because the abs are a muscle. So one of the biggest things that I really wanted to do, and luckily my coach really opened my eyes on doing, was to bring up the abs, especially the obliques, because I was an under-muscled individual, and I also believed a lot of the myths of bodybuilding that training obliques is going to make your waist blow out and stuff, and there is some truth to that, but if you're under-muscled, it actually will add to your physique, and I found it's helped me with better waist control, especially when posing. So this is the starting physique. So yeah, this is just a front relaxed, and then we're going to go into some other photos. So for example, here you can see that I already have this X-frame shape. You can see the quads are pretty much there. Now, a few things which I'll go back to the front relax and you can see is I would like to exaggerate the illusion of these upper lats a little bit more. So that is something we're going to get into training. I've found generally training lats is not the hardest thing to do, but the upper lats are something that I think And the Terries are something I fell behind in because I actually got entered the science-based training route very quickly, which was a big mistake. I didn't really run the basics, so I didn't do the typical conventional wide grip pull down stuff, and that stuff is phenomenal for developing your Terries and your lats and a bit of the middle traps. And those are very beneficial muscles to have developed. But if we go here, this is my abs and thighs. Again, in this pose, a bit more lat in this area would help. Now, my waist is going to heavily shrink down. If you look at this first photo, you can see that I'm storing quite a bit still. Keep in mind, I'm probably 17% body fat right now, maybe 15. I'm being, that's being generous. And once again, yeah, here, I'd like a bit more tricep, a bit more rear delt to create more roundness right here. Pretty happy with this shot. I would say this is one of my stronger shots. You can show off the sweep of the hamstring. Everything poses pretty well. I would just like to add a tiny bit more roundness back here. So that would be a lot of rear delt. Another thing, maybe a bit more width on the arm from the front. And that's going to be mainly from training this horseshoe and a bit of the brachialis and brachioradialis. Because the brachialis, what it will do is will push the bicep out. And the brachioradialis, well, it develops this like cartoon Popeyes muscle. If you guys want a good visual on what brachioradialis look like when they're developed, Google Phil Heath brachioradialis. So this is a back shot, not really posed well, but you can see, at least for me, the quad, once again, strong point here. You can see the sweep on the outside. But the biggest thing is these adductors. These really need to bring them, because what the adductors do is when they're developed, especially when you're leaner, they add to the illusion of a very wide and deep developed hamstring section. So also from the front, they really add this width, which was displayed earlier. Once again, this is why I love the front relax, because we can find out so much of what's going on here. And again, you can see that, my quads are pretty sweepy. No, I'm not flexing in this photo. This is purely relaxed, just with exhalation to engage the abs. But you can see that how much width this adds and depth it adds on your back shot. So if you want to see what really good adductors look like, Google Keon Pearson back double bicep. And you can really see the difference. You can see that on this inner thigh, it's almost like there's a cave of muscle. Again, one of my stronger poses from the back. I'm pretty strong. From the side, pretty happy with this. Maybe a bit more thickness on the pecs. But yeah, again, pretty strong pose for me. I would say I am bigger in the arms area. Anyways, I would just like to add a bit more long head so I get a bit more of this hang right here. And a bit more in the upper lats, and the rest of it just comes down to getting lean, because getting lean is going to help the illusion of your shape more than anything, more than any muscular development you currently have, or we're talking about in the short term. Now, with nutrition, so right now, I woke up, let's calculate it, so I woke up, I did it in kilos. I prefer to do things. I woke up around 190. So I was eating 1800 the week before, but that is a change I'm going to make. I actually want to drag my food up and make some adjustments to my training to increase my activity, so I can also tolerate a bit more calories, and I think I do have more room to train. So 190, I'm just going to do 190 grams protein. Fats, I found 70 is a very nice sweet spot for me, and I'm going to get a bit more into that. 200 grams of carbs would be a nice change, and then from there we're gonna play around. So one mention, so I try and get, so general notes, I'm gonna add now 20 grams of soluble fiber. So soluble fiber is actually a very good thing to include in your diet for digestion, but it also acts as a prebiotic. So when you look at the gut, we have prebiotics and probiotics. Now prebiotics will help create this healthy bacterial strands that, engage in healthy behavior in the gut, healthy digestion. When we have probiotics, there are only certain strands that we can take, but prebiotics is basically, it prepares and solidifies a good gut. It prepares and creates an environment for the gut to be healthy, and then probiotics are just solidifying, and it's like the last step. But prebiotics are generally what you want to put more of your time into. I don't really look into probiotics, and there's only so many strands. There are about 7, 8, 9 different strands you can supplement from probiotics, to my knowledge. I could be wrong about that. Digestion is not my expertise. My expertise is training and the art of bodybuilding, and a little bit of some nutrition stuff. Now, so 20 grams soluble fiber, and then what I'm going to do is, of this fat, 40 grams of it, 30 to 40 grams of this are going to be from polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats. Now, the reason I say this is because poly and monounsaturated fats are number one anti-inflammatory, and they have so many benefits from a hormonal aspect, health aspect. And the biggest thing is that these are fats people, especially I've noticed natural bodybuilders more in their intermediate stage, we really neglect, because right now we have this whole movement about red meat and how it's a superfood. But what people don't realize, red meat isn't bad, but saturated fat in excess is very bad. And it can cause inflammation more than any other fat compound beside trans fats, but it's simply because trans fats can't be synthesized in the body. Now from there, what's going to happen is 30-40 gram polyunsaturated. So the sources of these can be nuts, olives, olive oils, avocado oil, what else? Eggs, omega-3 supplements, and yeah. Now, one thing I like to do is, so I will generally divide my carbs fairly like this. So I'll do 20%. So my pre-workout meal will have about, 30% of daily carbs. My post-workout meal will have 30% of my daily carbs. And then 20% is allotted to the two other meals. The reason I do this is just to improve recovery, and at the same time, before your training, you do want some carbs in you, specifically those cleaner carbs, specifically those faster carbs, simply for the reason that they're going to absorb quickly, and when carbs absorb quickly, there's a higher chance that they're going to be converted faster into blood glucose, which is then going to be in turn put into glycogen. Now, the process of creating glycogen is actually a very long process, so you never know that, what you eat before workout isn't necessarily going to dictate glycogen production immediately, but you are going to have, glucose in your blood, which is going to be beneficial when you're training. Now, post-workout, when you train a muscle, when a cell is active, that cell, especially muscle cells, become insulin sensitive. So they are very prone to absorbing nutrients. So in this scenario, what this means is that body's waiting for protein and carbs. So post-workout, I'm also going to have another high dose of carbs because that's when you need it most. I personally believe post-workout carbohydrates and during workout carbohydrates are more important than your pre-workout carbohydrates the day of. The most important pre-workout carbs are actually what you eat the day before and how you hydrate the day before, because that is going to dictate your recovery. So that's that for nutrition. Pretty straightforward. Nothing necessarily crazy. For my protein sources, by the way, this 190 grams of protein coming directly from animal sources. So what does that mean? To me, that means I don't count the cottage cheese, I don't count the Greek yogurt, because that stuff is more of a partial amino acid profile, so it's not fully going to be absorbed and as efficient the same way as meat, whey, eggs, fish, chicken. My favorite proteins are white fish, ground red meat of any kind, as long as it's not pork, chicken thighs, chicken breasts. I don't mind chicken breasts. I used to abuse that a lot, so I do have a mild taste aversion to it unless it's seasoned and cooked very well. Eggs and egg whites, whey protein, and yeah, I don't know if I mentioned fish. I like salmon a lot, and one thing I did want to mention is that salmon is an unbelievable source, specifically wild salmon, because it's not farmed and fed different foods, which can actually change some of the contents within the fat stores of the salmon itself. Wild salmon is phenomenal, and the best omega-3 supplements are made from wild salmon. So one really good one is Revive MD's omega-3, or Nordic omega-3, or Trained by JP's omega-3. These are some of the highest quality. And one thing I do want to say is I was talking to a client of mine last night, and what brand your supplements are very important. You should always go the extra mile to buy the better thing, because if you're using some random Walmart omega-3, not much of that is being absorbed. It's very cheap. Guys, cheap price is cheap quality. And it's as simple as that. When it comes to health, don't ever cheap out. So I'm saving that. So that is now my nutrition plan alongside my other clients. I'm treating myself like my own client, which is how the coaching game should go. Okay. Now, every Sunday, what I do is when I wake up in the morning, when I'm fasted, I am going to take progress photos and fill out a check-in form reflecting on my week. So this is what I'm going to fill out tomorrow. What's my current weight? And this is my average weight for the week, which I'm going to show you where I calculate this. Second. Just, yeah, moving on another sheet. Now, with current weight, let's just put in a random number. Let's say I'm 86 kilos for the week. Did I have any on-track meals? And why this is really important is because this can actually leave us to clues as to why some days our weight has gone up, why some days maybe visuals aren't good, or maybe let's say Saturday night I ate something out and my check-ins look weird on Sunday. All that sodium or the different macronutrient complex of that food can generally dictate how you look. Now, it's not something to sweat about, but it's important to know current hunger levels, and that's going to help make a decision moving forward. Generally, the hungrier you are, technically, the more food focus you are going to have, which may or may not be a good thing depending on how aggressive or not aggressive your cut is. Improved training progression, so how are your load rep sets? So is everything moving? Are you increasing in volume either by working with more weight, working with more reps, or doing more sets, or even improving your execution within what you're already doing? Now, any issues with exercises? So are there any exercises maybe you're lacking a connection? Let's say you lack a connection. So what I'm going to do this coming week is I'm going to film that and start to see, okay, is there anything I'm doing wrong execution that's maybe not directing the load or tension to the target muscle? If I'm not getting a pump, maybe that's a nutritional thing or hydrational thing. Or sometimes you're not getting a pump to a body part. That's not really a good thing. Especially if you have food in you, that's not a good thing. People say the pump doesn't matter. It certainly does. Don't listen to people. Most people say that are small and are mediocre bodybuilders at best. And that's why they become coaches, because they could never be a good bodybuilder. Granted, I'm not an amazing physique as well, but one day I will be. And that's why I'm doing this right now. I want to show you guys exactly what is behind it. And I believe I already have a good frame. I have good structure, so I can speak on certain things that even an advanced mediocre bodybuilder can't. That's my opinion. Win for the week. What went well this week? And oh, here, joint pain. So let's say my knees are hurting on a hack squat. I'm going to take a video of the hack squat. Maybe I'll notice that I have less rotation on one knee or something like that. Then I'm going to address that. Maybe I have an issue with my hip. I'm going to address that. I'm going to do some of my injury management protocols or mobility protocols, which I use on my own clients, and I'm going to screen myself and figure that out. And luckily, because I've coached over 40 people now in the past year, I'm much more coachable to myself than I used to be 2 years ago, which is a very fascinating thing to think about. But yeah, was there a decline or improvement in sleep quality this week? And I can dive into why. Maybe I was on my phone close to bed. Maybe I had caffeine that day. I don't drink caffeine, just to let you know. So that is something I do like to take a note of. Any issues with digestion, specific examples. When you use specific examples and you backtrack like that, you can get a rough idea of maybe what foods you don't tolerate. Cardio completed, average step count for the week, average water intake, any specific stressors, stress levels for the week. And then here is when you're putting the progress photos. And then I'm going to compare that on a week-to-week basis, see if I'm getting leaner, what body parts are getting flatter, what are improving, and whatnot. Now, I've copied one of my client sheets and just reset it blank, but included my own training. So, my training right now, I was on a upper, lower, upper, rest, upper, lower, rest. Now, on every day I do abs, I do 3 sets of a leg raise variation, either for the obliques or the abdominal total area, supersetted with a loaded crunch. So I'm using a machine crunch right now in my gym, which is phenomenal. And the amount of spinal flexion I get on that, how much bend I get in my spine, and the contraction on it is just, I've never used a machine like that. If any of you guys are wondering, that's the Impercore ab crunch machine. Phenomenal machine. So on my first upper day, I'm doing that superset as I mentioned. Then I'm doing an incline. So some of this is unadjusted. I'm actually doing an incline barbell press, single arm underhand hammer strength pull down. On this incline barbell press, I'm doing 6 to 8 to failure seconds, and then doing another set to failure, also known as a rest pause. And I do this twice. So I do my 6 to 8 rep set, and then to get to my 10 to 12 rep set, let's say I get 6 reps, I'm going to drop down 20%, and I'll probably be at around 10 reps. And if I'm at 8 reps, I drop down 20%, I'll probably be at 12 reps. So ideally what I want to do is I want to get to the 8th rep of this working set before I add load. So I want to conquer the rep range. So I do the same thing, flat machine press, but on the second set, no rest pause. And then here I'm doing a 6 to 8, 10 to 12, and a rest pause, and then a 12 to 15. If you have a weak body part, I heavily recommend you work in that 12 to 20 rep range, especially the 15 to 20. Numerous benefits to it, and nothing feels like it. You can't put it in a study, but the sheer amount of volume you get, especially if you keep your execution consistent and you actually go to failure, the pump, the volume you experience, the tension. Next, I'm doing the prime extreme row. I have switched gyms, so I'm going to sub this out for just a normal upper back row machine, either a T-bar or some sort. Preferably something that pulls more up than it does back and down, because that'll be a bit more lat bias. I'm trying to get upper backs here. Then a machine lateral raise. I do a 6 to 8 rep set, double rest pause, 10 to 12, double rest pause. Then I do a 45-degree incline dumbbell curl, 6 to 8, 10 to 12, flat dumbbell skull crusher, 6 to 8, 10 to 12. And yeah, so yes, I do low rep work for arms. I found it to be phenomenal, especially if you keep execution consistent. But you must do 10 plus rep work for arms. You will not grow big arms if you're only doing the low rep stuff. What is my evidence for that? Every bodybuilder ever. So yeah, every good bodybuilder ever. Don't listen to people like Paul Carter and Dr. Mike. I mean, Dr. Mike is at least on the higher rep side, but someone like Paul Carter, probably not the best source of information. Very intelligent guy, but very entitled to his beliefs, which can oftentimes be false. Next here, doing a 15. So once again, I have put in a barbell press here. Now, this is a movement I really want to improve in, get strong at, so I'm doing it twice a week. You guys want to master a movement, do it as many times as you can in a week. It's simple. The reason a lot of powerlifters have crazy bench numbers is because they bench 3-4 times a week. So frequency is an amazing time, right? Who's going to be better at golf? The guy who practices once a week, goes to the driving range, does nothing, or the guy who plays the course every other day and goes to the driving range every other day? That guy's always going to be better. Guys, it's simple. If you want to get better at something, do more. Do more. Do not work smarter. Work harder first. Do more. Once you've done more for quite a while and it's become the norm, then you work smart. Do more. That's what no one in bodybuilding wants to say anymore. Do more. Do more work. Do more sets. Do more crazy stuff. That's going to make you grow. Assuming your numbers are improving session to session and you're sleeping. We're going to get into that. Do not do more if you can't handle it. But build an environment where you can do more, because that environment is going to help you thrive, and your level of muscularity going to be on another level. And then, yeah, so here I'm just doing a mag grip pull down. This is more on the wider grip side. This is more an upper lat teres focus. Hammer strength decline press, machine lateral raise again. You'll see, I really brought up my side delts. Why? Because I only did one movement and I mastered it 3 times a week with lots of sets. 60 degree. I've changed this to a 45 degree dumbbell hammer curl. And then I'm doing an elbow flared cable extension. So all I'm doing is I'm doing right here, cable extension like this. This is more for the horseshoe muscle right here, just so I can create more width in the arm, as I mentioned previously. And that's also why I have the hammer curl. Now, I am not directly going to make all the changes in this one video. I might make a separate video for that, but I'm going to be increasing my arm volume and my upper lat volume and probably push the adductors a little bit more. And yeah, so then upper, I have my rear delt T-bar row. I've found phenomenal results from doing flared elbow rows for my rear delts, especially with the goal of going and locking out the elbows at the bottom and then pulling out but not retracting. That has been a very, very lucrative form of execution for bringing up my rear delt. Next, 60-degree Smith incline press. This is more for the upper chest, bit of front delts, bit of side delts. Phenomenal movement, not much to say. And again, decline press. Once again, if you're struggling to grow your chest, don't just abuse the upper chest stuff, flat chest stuff. Do the decline press, because one thing people don't know, mechanically, when you're at the bottom of a decline press, that's actually the only press where all heads of your pec, all the regions are being stretched, and in this position, they're all leveraged pretty well to pull together out of the bottom. So you're loading the entire pec, a pretty good amount of the movement. As the movement progresses, you're dropping off certain parts of the heads, lower pec, then the flat pec, and then you're finishing off with a bit of upper pec. But phenomenal mass builder for the pecs, and even more phenomenal when you do 6 to 8, 10 to 12, 12 to 15, and even some 20 rep sets for fun. Guys, do not sleep on high rep sets for your bigger body parts. And then I'm doing a 60-degree, I'm just going to switch this to a preacher curl, and I'm going to be increasing the volume on this, and I'm going to reorganize my split slightly. If you want to see how I'm going to reorganize my split, a subscribe would be much appreciated. I'm going to be making a separate video on that. But yeah, and then I'm doing a set of Smith machine squats, high rep, just not to, be ultra fatiguing, not be exposed to too much load, because the day after I hit legs, which is my lower B session. But for my lower A, I'm doing 3 sets of oblique raises with a machine crunch. Then I do 2 sets of a deficit RDL, so I'm elevating myself 6 inches off the ground to get more range of motion, and I'm pulling with a stiff leg, but not dead stopping the bar on the ground. Controlled eccentric, pause in the bottom. And throughout the whole time, I'm maintaining an arch back to brace my pelvis and leverage those hamstrings throughout the movement. Then I do a seated leg curl. And with the seated leg curl, what you'll see is a lot of people will really bend over and pull. I actually sit back. I just make sure my lower back is in contact with the seat, and I'm pushing the handles as I'm curling down to oppose the load to brace. Then I'm doing a sissy leg press. So this is basically a leg press variation where you're elevating your heels as you come down. And then I'm doing a Smith machine Bulgarian split squat. These are torture. An adductor machine. And I will be dragging my volume up on this a little bit as well, because one thing you'll see in my visuals, you can see pretty visibly, which is not a good thing. These glutes need a lot more work. Having very dense glutes adds a lot of depth to the leg. So it's not necessarily that we want big glutes. We want big legs that come from the illusion of having big glutes. Now, adductor machine, I don't do my calf raises, but I'm going to start doing them again. Reason why, I already have huge calves. I don't know if you can see it in this photo, but I have pretty big calves. Never trained them much. And then same thing here, except the sissy leg press. And then here, I'm going to do a volume count. So, how do I do this volume count? I'm going to walk through a few movements so you get a rough idea. So let's say I do an incline barbell press. 1 set of incline barbell press, I count that as 1 set of pecs, 0.5 set of front delts, 0.5 set of side delts, 0.5 set of triceps. I found the side delts work a tiny bit. Now, you don't really have to track the side delts. I'm just a bit OCD. Then the unilateral underhand pull down, because I'm getting basically like a good amount of flexion. I sometimes count it as 1 set, but for today's sake, I'll count it as 0.5 sets. So I'll be 1 set of lats, 0.5 set of bicep, 0.5 set of rear delts, 0.5 set of upper back. Next, flat press machine, 1 set of chest, 0.5 set of tricep, 0.5 set of front delts. Extreme row, now this will be, let's say 1 set, that'll be 1 set of upper back, 0.5 set of lats, 0.5 set of biceps, and 1 set of rear delts. Almost any upper back work you're going to do, you're going to get quite a bit of rear delts. So yeah, I'm a big fan of rowing for rear delts, and I've actually only done rows for rear delts. I never really did many isolations for them, and they grew just fine. But now maybe I'll have to sprinkle some stuff in just for some more refinement work. And then yeah, dumbbell curl, 1 set of biceps. That's about it. Dumbbell skull crusher, 1 set of triceps. Hanging leg raise, I'll do one set would be one set of abs, zero point 0.5 set of obliques. And then I apply the same concept. So for example, for my sissy leg press, that's one set of quads, zero point 0.5 set of adductors, zero point 0.5 sets of glutes. For my RDL, that'll be one set of glutes, one set of hamstrings, 0.5 sets of adductors, and one set of erectors, and maybe 0.5 of upper back. Now, this might sound very extreme that I'm tracking all this, but when you combine it in a sheet and you track the total sets, both the direct and indirect sets, you get a very good idea as to why your physique looks the way it does. If you have huge lats, but you're not doing a lot of lat pull downs, but you're doing a lot of indirect work for lats, that still counts as volume. And all of that combined together, so you do a few pull downs a week, lots of upper back rows, and certain things that might involve the lat. Or let's say a lot of people who do crazy amounts of presses, they don't do that much isolation for tricep, but a lot of people do a lot of flat pressing and maybe decline pressing who have a closer grip. They actually change the lever to bias their triceps a bit more. So someone like that, and based on how you execute your movements, it can really show you what muscles, what's the reason the way they are. So you add this in total. So this is going to be my starting volume, everything I have here, and after some refinements, which I'm going to make in another video, which you're going to see if you subscribe and put on post notifications. And then I'm going to gradually here take a note of my new training numbers. Now here, this is my weekly just check and tally. So I put in my daily calories. So let's say Monday, 1800, and then I have 1800 for the week, right? Then let's say Monday, I didn't have my water goal. So I put 3 here. Then I had 4 on Tuesday, 5 on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday, 1, 3, 4. Just around. And now I have my rough estimate. But let's say Saturday I had a bad training session, probably because I had a leader on Friday. Tracking, guys. Troubleshooting is the most important thing in bodybuilding. The more you can track, the more you can measure, the more problems you can identify, and the more problems you can identify, the more you could solve. Sleep quality, stress quality, my daily steps, what time I slept. So let's say I slept at 3 a.m. here, and then here I slept at 5 a.m. God forbid. Now, I might have been getting 8 hours each, but the most important thing for actual healthy and productive sleep patterns is regular sleep cycles, meaning your sleep and wake times are roughly consistent. So every night you're falling asleep within the same 30-minute interval from 10:30 to 11, 11:30 to 12, and that's consistent throughout the week. So you're regulating your circadian rhythm, your sleep-wake clock in your brain. And that can heavily impact how much energy you have throughout the day and when you have it. Body weight, and then from there I make decisions, I take notes. Let's say this week X happened, whatever, and I have some sleep guidelines here. And yeah, so as for supplementation, I did forget to take a note of that, and we're gonna go back and do some modifications for supplementation. Okay. So for supplementation, I'm doing 5,000 IUs, so vitamin D3, 5,000 IUs in the morning daily. And then I do 50 milligrams of zinc, so zinc AM. And then I take 500, so vitamin C, 500 milligrams AM. Omega-3, that's high in EPA. DHA from Revive MD, awesome brand. They obviously do not sponsor me. I have 68 subscribers. And then 2,000 milligrams. And I do include this in my calorie tracking. And then I do creatine monohydrate, 10 grams AM or intra-workout. If I'm fasting in the morning, on my rest days, I like to fast for a little bit just because I can, crunch my window to eat. I'm less hungry during the window that I eat. And I get to be a tiny bit more sharp when I'm working in the morning. And I just enjoy the clear-headedness it provides me. I'm having essential amino acids just to at least break my fast with protein to prevent myself from catabolizing muscle, killing muscle, eating muscle. Creatine, what else am I having? And then I'm having N-acetyl cysteine. For anyone who doesn't know, N-acetylcysteine is a supplement you take, and it's a catalyst for producing glutathione in the body. Glutathione is the strongest antioxidant in the body. And if you want to know more about that, I'm going to make more videos about that. This YouTube channel is my nerdy bodybuilding lifestyle, separate from my Instagram, which is going to be more general crowd and more directed towards my business. And that's why I'm here. So I take 1 gram AM, 1 gram PM. If there are days where my recovery is not as good, I double the dose. I actually know some people who inject glutathione naturals because it's not a performance enhancing drug. Lots of benefits. If that's something you can do in one of those beauty or health clinics near you, I recommend it. Luckily, I live in Dubai, so a lot of this stuff is very convenient and not that expensive, which is one of the best parts about Dubai. And then what else am I having? Omega-3s, and that is everything. As for my intro workout, my during workout, I'm always having an high quality EAA 15 grams plus electrolytes. For electrolytes, I'm having Bolero electrolytes. I've tried Element. I've tried Hue Mantra. I like Hue Mantra and Bolero more. I find Element has way too much salt, and I don't think you always need that. For example, here I have a water bottle. It's 1.5 liters, and I put my Bolero electrolyte complex in this, and I just sip on this throughout the day. Because the problem with Dubai is actually a lot of the water is very low in sodium, so you're actually dehydrating quicker by drinking the water, which is funny. But yeah, so that's everything for my supplementation. Thank you for watching the video. I hope I provided as much value as I could. I'm going to make another training video, which is going to be extremely fun. I'm going to dive extremely into the detail of my training. But as far as that goes, that's my video. Thank you for watching. If you want to take your physique to the next level and you found value from this video and you want to enhance that and take your physique to a whole nother level, improve the body parts you've always struggled with, or finally get in shape or get rid of pains, go on themusclejedi.com and book a call with me. I'm from there.